see I'm like sweating. I look clammy. No one would want to touch me right now.
No, I don't want to touch you right
Well,
now.
I mean, maybe Dave. I don't know.
Dave, you want to touch John right now?
You want to touch me?
Any given opportunity to touch John, I'm pretty happy with. I'll be perfectly honest.
Aw, that's
He's
awesome.
really nice. He's kind of easy on the eyes.
I'd
gives
touch
good
you
hugs.
too, Dave.
Yay.
I'm Dan Carlson. I'm Dan Carlson. A portion, 1/4 portion of us three blokes.
I'm John Cadolf. That's all I'm going to say because I really have no identity right now. And I know I'm John Cadolf.
Hi, I'm Dave Nesbitt, and I'm the remaining portion, whatever that might be mathematically, of us three blokes.
I was telling Dave, I feel like I threw a hand grenade at you guys. We were supposed to watch Santa Jaws, and you were all kind of not keen on that. So I said, okay, IGBY goes down. And yeah, I don't know. Does everybody want it? Is it a green light to go ahead with this review, or do we want to?
We can review it.
Okay.
I have some things.
Periodically, I'm just going to go fuck Trump in the ear.
Huh?
I said we can review it. I'm just periodically going to randomly go fuck Trump in the ear.
Oh, that's fine.
Sorry, just got to get that off my chest.
So IGBY.
Wait. Before we go into that, since Dave brought it up, I'm going to follow with something real quick. I am beginning to have more and more respect for U.S. media because yesterday, when Humpty Dumpty came out to the Hail to the Chief and started his 16-minute rant saying that he won.
Somebody called it the Pettysburg Address.
Yeah, the Pettysburg Address.
Yes.
Perfect. A la Hitler. He most of the major news organizations actually just pulled away and said, look, we're not going to do this. We're not going to air this. Everything he said up till now is baseless and false. Everything.
I'm glad they're doing that now. I kind of wish they had done that 4 years ago and we wouldn't have been stuck with this fucker.
No,
and I wish they had maybe done that before we went to war with Iraq. So I'm not ready to cut the media a whole lot of slack, but it's good to see them finally living up to their responsibilities.
They finally are just calling this shit where it is.
Yeah. Sorry.
I love that.
Sorry, I turned into IGBY there for a minute.
I was driving back from Princeton yesterday, and I had it on NPR, and I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be another blathering. But I was interested to hear because it's somewhat entertaining at this point, his temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. And then like 2 minutes in, the NPR host goes, I
can't even fucking do this anymore.
We can't in good faith air this. So IGBY drags down.
IGBY goes down. IGBY is the name so his actual name is Jason. They call him IGBY because he had a stuffed animal named Digby, which he called IGBY, and he lied a lot and he blamed it on whatever he did wrong on the bear. So every time they're calling him IGBY, which is all the time, they're basically calling him a liar.
Yeah.
IGBY is a 17-year-old surrounded. My favorite line in the movie is it kind of sums everything up. He goes, "I'm drowning in assholes."
Oh yeah.
And that's what he is. He's drowning in assholes. He has one good person in his life, his father, played by Bill Pullman, who is pretty honest and he's doing his best. You don't think he was a good father? He was trying.
Okay, he was trying to be a good person. So I'm gonna give him credit where credit is due, and I'm gonna say he was trying his best.
He was in a hopeless
situation. He had severe
seasonal depression.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say he had mental health issues.
Mhm.
And as a person who has mental health issues, I will never dismiss them. So he wasn't the best father, but he wanted to be, and he tried his best to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for that, that's
Um,
that's all I say.
yeah. So I'm just saying that he's the only light in the movie for Eric B. There's no other real light in the movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, so basically, he's rebelling against everything. People have compared this to Catcher in the Rye because he's kind of going against everything. But early in the movie, he shows up. He's the priest of the school that he's going to, the private school. Pulls him aside, and Igby's just like, "Hey, look, you know, um, all I got to say is if heaven is so fucking awesome, then why is being crucified such a big fucking sacrifice?"
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the movie. um, he basically, you as you watch his interactions with his family, you can kind of see where that comes from because you see how they treat his father in the opening credits. You can see his father being just mistreated at the dinner table and things like that. And the only thing that makes Igby smile in the whole movie is the moment when his father throws a bunch of pills at his mother.
Yeah.
You see Igby smile, and Igby basically is doing that through the whole movie. He's basically throwing shit in people's faces, throwing their hypocrisy in their faces for 90 minutes.
Yeah. I watched the movie, and well, from my messages to you that I was really into it for a while.
Yep.
For a little while,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, of course, Claire Danes is just breathtaking.
She's attractive.
I mean,
I mean,
I've been in. Oh,
I
go
mean,
ahead,
he's
Dave.
attractive, but there's a real warmth to what she does, and there's
Yeah.
a genuine sense of of two people looking for some kind of basic human connection that
But
neither one of them have.
I don't feel that as strongly in this movie. It's there, but okay. So early in the movie, they go to this cotillion where Igby is kind of forced to deal with everybody. That's where he kind of meets Claire Danes, and 2 minutes after he meets her and they start talking, she really is obviously trying to get the attention of his brother. Um, the first thing out of her mouth when she talks to he says something like I'm feeling kind of out of sorts, and she's like, well, the first thing I do when I'm out of sorts is I dip into Rilka. It's just a really bad pickup line, and Igby sees right through it and he shoots it down. He's just like, oh please, and um, I feel like she's not she's not the ideal mate for him, and it's only because he has nothing else to cling to that he gloms onto her.
A lot of this, though, is the right. Okay,
John got some election results coming in.
film to me always feels like Igby is the one person who has no desire whatsoever to follow the path of least resistance
Mm-hmm.
because he's seen where it's led everyone else. His mom is fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
His dad is been driven to a complete and utter mental collapse.
Mm-hmm.
DH, his godfather, is
Satan.
Wow. There's a moment in there when he's sitting around talking with DH's mistress, who's
Yeah.
at the same party with DH and his wife, and everybody knows it except for his wife. And you just sit there and you're like, and again, this is where we come back to, we've all seen various elements of how this story plays out in public, in our own lives. And those are those moments where you sit there and go, I can absolutely relate to this. And holy shit, this stings way more than I thought it would.
Yeah. So Igby ends up running away from he fails out of school. He goes into a military school. He runs away from there, kind of goes to the Midwest, hangs out in some hotels, and then ends up squatting with his godfather's lover and her friend. And that forms the bulk of the movie, is him swimming in and out of that situation.
Yeah.
So there's a moment when DH learns that Igby has been staying there. Hey, we got you back. So we're just talking about how DH is the fucking devil.
Which is kind of funny because there's a film later on, I think, where Jeff Goldblum plays a serial killer who might be Satan.
Oh, well, in The Fly, he talks about insect politicians and how he would like to be the first, the first insect to show compassion, but he doesn't think he can. Well, DH is the full embodiment of that. He has zero compassion whatsoever for anyone.
Yeah, he certainly lives in his own reality as far as what our duty as a human being is to our fellow man. I personally, if I was Igby, I would have embraced that in him, because I wouldn't have had to invest anything in him, first of all, because he wasn't investing anything in me. And
he was invested. He was literally investing in him, though. He was.
No. Hold on.
Emotionally, he wasn't, certainly.
Thank you for making my point. Yeah, it's the fact that I wouldn't have to invest anything in him because he wasn't investing anything in me personally. He was putting money in my pocket, giving me a job, and allowing me to play with his girlfriend.
He wasn't really allowing that, though.
No, he wasn't allowing it, but
as soon as he found out about it, for sure, he punched Igby in the fucking face like several times.
No. Okay, see, that was explained differently. The beating of Igby by DH was one of those things where someone with no authority makes the decision that someone needs the shit beat out of them to set them straight in life. It was one of those things that you hear about. You hear about these misguided fathers doing to their sons because they think that, you hear people say things like that.
Yeah, he definitely
ass whip. He just needs an ass whipping.
Yeah,
that's what this was.
They say that he didn't actually. They said, I didn't think DH was capable of being angry, and he goes, he wasn't angry. He just felt like he had to do it.
I think that DH is far too separated from the rest of the world around him and has no real concern for it. And he's kind of following the path of least resistance. Whereas he kind of respects Igby in his own rather way to see why this kid won't fucking break and fall into line with everybody else. And it's something that in their relationship I just kept thinking about is there seems to be a sense of envy in a strange sort of way for both of them. And, just a strange, odd thought that came to mind.
I feel like everyone is orbiting around DH. Like everyone makes all of their decisions based on how it will affect their relationship with DH.
Oh yeah, because he's their bread and butter.
Right.
He's the one with all the money and the power.
But because of that, no one is making any real connection with anyone else because they always have to serve that first.
Yeah. Right. I think he represents. I think DH, right?
Yeah.
Represents capitalism, and as a whole, we have to serve it because it looks after us in a very menial way.
Yeah.
And so here we're stuck. Letting capitalism beat the shit out of us to keep us in line because it thinks we need to be beaten the shit out of to keep in line, or we're trying to keep our fucking lives together. And what's happening around us is we're losing everything meaningful to us because everyone else is doing the fucking same thing. No one knows what the fuck to do anymore. Everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to survive in a capitalist society that's trying to fucking kill us because they don't care whether we live or die. Morrissey said it. Why do we spend so much time caring caring about the people who don't care whether we live or die? I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact lyric. but fuck, man, I live that lyric. I'm done. I'm completely done pandering to people that don't give a shit whether I live or die. I'm just gonna say it like it is. I'm gonna call them out on their shit. After this election, I am fully prepared to go complete activist because I'm so sick of the status quo that, all these fucking, closet racists and closet bigots and all these people willing to sweep all this shit under the rug. Igby was done with that too. He was done having people just, it's like when all these fucking people that surround Trump and sit there and nod while he's saying the most ridiculous, ludicrous shit. And they just sit there and nod. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to be one of those people that steps 2 feet forward in front of the son of a bitch and says, what this man has just said is complete shit. And I'm just not going to do it anymore. Somebody says something against someone, in the LGBTQ community. I'm not going to be the one that just says, and just not agree with them. I'm going to literally call them out on their shit. When people talk, shit about minorities, I'm going to call them out on their shit because it's time that it's done with. We're done getting the shit beat out of us because some authoritarian entity, and yeah, I mean, this movie really plays right into what's going on right
Yeah.
now. Just because someone decided that we needed an ass whipping in our lives, and I'm not going to deal with it anymore. So I'm going to be Igby.
Okay. Well, that's very impassioned for someone who didn't like the movie.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. So the movie left me feeling like I don't want to feel anymore. And I was a bit misguided probably when I was talking to you about my feelings about it last and saying that it left me depressed. No, it didn't. It left me angry. It left me angry because he just, man, everything just fell to shit for him, and it's because he let it happen to himself. He was trying to be what I'm trying to be, but then he just let all this shit happen to himself. And I'm just tired of that happening. So,
but he didn't, at the end, he actually got away.
He got away.
The title, the title actually, some people have said it's not about him having a downfall. It's about I think there's a saying like you go down from Oxford or whatever. It means you got out of Oxford. So
yeah.
The title kind of means Igby gets out.
Yeah.
And
that's fine,
although there is
the
scene in the military school in the shower where they're hazing him and Igby goes down.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's where the literal title comes from, but
right. Yeah. I'm just not gonna go down. I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna fight the fight from now on. Well, I have been for the past several weeks now calling people out on their shit all the time,
mm-hmm.
and blocking family members on Facebook, blocking longtime friends on Facebook because they choose to insert themselves into my life and try to oppress my feelings by injecting their hateful piss and poison into my narrative. This is my fucking narrative, and no one's gonna piss, shit, or poison my narrative anymore.
Good.
And I think if Igby had decided that, he would have stayed. He would have fought for Claire Danes' character, and and told his brother to, he did tell his brother to fuck off.
I see that whole Claire Danes thing differently. So,
yeah,
it basically is saying, basically he gets out because he sees what happens. There's a moment. It's actually when DH beats him up. I think that he goes to Claire Danes and says, "We got to leave now." He wants to get out right then, and she lays her cards on the table with his brother. And there's a rant. The most powerful scene in the movie for me. It's it's not the end of their relationship because they continue being friends after that. But he's pounding on the door and he says, "Do you think that these people are gonna, these people are gonna, these are the people to throw you in your lot with? Do you think they're actually going to be there for you? Do you think they're not going to be talking about you behind your back? All this kind of stuff." And she knows it's true because she starts crying as soon as he says that.
Yeah.
And but everybody, it's weird because DH, in a way, if you don't know him, he is living your dream life. He's got the money.
Just like Trump.
Yeah, he's got the money.
In
He
theory.
has prosperity. He's got this and that. But he doesn't have any real personal connection to anything. Everything around him is pretty much a toy. Everything around him is pretty much a sense of property. He's not connected in a human way to most of the stuff that he is.
And you see that in the scene where he goes to meet the mistress, what's her name? And she sits down and she's made up real nice and everything to impress him. And he just looks at her and just gets up and leaves. So she's just been a plaything for him. She knows it in that moment. There's nothing there.
Well, he got up and left because he had his pants down and Igby walked in, and he realized at that moment that Igby was there with her as well, or living there, because he took the key and walked in.
Which is why this reminds me of The Graduate, because in The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman is having an affair with this older married woman in her close to 40. He's supposed to be like 20. He's actually closer to her age in real life. But then he falls in love with her daughter, and there's this triangle, and that's what reminded me of The Graduate, because he's screwing his we find out his real dad's mistress. He's screwing her. And we hear Susan Sarandon say about Igby, the creation of his life was an act of hatred. Why shouldn't his life be? So which makes me think, I don't know what happened there.
You get the feeling that it was an affair of two people who are mostly working out their aggression on each other. There's the scene at the end. Okay, here we go. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
When Susan Sarandon, it shouldn't be a spoiler because you see it right at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the tail end, you see DH sitting down talking with Igby's brother. And Igby's brother is basically saying, "Do you want to see the body before it's taken away?" And DH says, "No, I've already seen that." And I think, and there's such a sense of, you just look at him, and there's such a sense of, God, now I'm trying to think of the right word. See, alcohol, it has its upsides and its downsides. But there's such a sense of disregard at that moment that he's mostly been involved in all of this out of a sense of obligation that he's not feeling anymore. And that most of the memories that he has regarding Igby's mom are mostly about how it is that the two of them were basically hate fucking each other.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling that he's kind of looking forward to stepping away from all of this in this moment. It's like one less complication in his life.
I wonder if the fight that led to Bill Pullman's break was related to the DH situation. I feel like it was. I just feel like everybody needing to please DH was the downfall of everybody. I actually thought of Ryan Philippe as a really thoroughly despicable character until I watched it again last night. And there's a scene at the end where Igby says, "You'll take care of it like you always do." And I just got the sense, oh man, this guy his whole life has been the guy who sweeps up everybody else's bullshit. This is, that's why he's so fucking angry, and why
he realizes that he's going to be that guy for the rest of his life, and he doesn't see any other way of getting out of it.
Yeah.
And the moment when when Igby, as he's walking out the door, just turns and tries to spontaneously hug his brother, and he knocks his drink out of his hand, and the glass breaks.
And they're just like, it's not meant to be.
But his brother for a moment just looks at him and smiles, like, you know what? Yeah. Oddly enough, this is the moment. This sums up us. And you know what? in a strange sense, I think he's good.
There's a scene where Igby shares with Sookie a story of his father's mental illness that theoretically should bond them and things like
Yeah.
that. And then almost in the very next scene, she leaves with his brother, and his brother does the same thing, but from a very cynical, manipulative way.
Yeah.
The whole time he's leaning into her. It's all seduction. It's nothing to do with bearing your soul. So Igby is actually, trying to actually genuinely connect with her. And the brother, probably because it's all he's learned from DH and people like that, and it's not to make any excuses for him. He's a dick, but probably because that's what he's had to work with, is using the same tragedy for his own gain rather than to bear his soul. And
yeah, with Igby, it's an expression of his pain and his genuine fear of becoming like these people.
mm-hmm.
And for his brother, it's mostly just kind of a way to kind of throw an emotional tie at somebody, see if they tug on it, and then drag them in.
Yeah. It's just that's why he's pounding on that door, to get her to not go with the brother and with that style of thinking.
Yeah.
He knows that she's going to end up just like Mimi. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He knows that right now she's got some fight in her, but if they have their hooks in her for a little while, she's going to turn out just like Mimi. And he cannot stick around for that. He can't fight to get her back from that after that point, because if he's not going to leave at that point, he's still worried about becoming like that himself.
Yeah.
So
but
I think that's why he
I felt
leaves.
she was still a redeemable character at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I think she can be redeemed, but I don't think it's Igby's job or Igby's place.
No, of course it's not. But I mean, she could have gone on that journey with him, and I mean journey in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
She could have chosen to not be that at that moment. And if I had written it, that's how I would have written it. Yeah. I would have written it that she breaks down crying. The brother leaves. He starts to leave. She goes after him, and they leave together. And that would have been the perfect end for me.
To me, that would have fallen a little. Okay, go ahead.
I think that the ending, in a way, though, is absolutely perfect for Igby. It might necessarily be the ending that we want, but in the end, in order for him to get away from all of the things that he knows are going to wind up destroying him, much the same way that they destroyed his dad, is for him to leave everything behind, go 3,000 miles across the goddamn country, and never see any of these people again. I think in the end, the ending of the film, while it might not necessarily be the one that we would have picked, I think it's the perfect one for the character. That in order for Igby to not turn into what happened to his dad, in order for him to be absent of this entire world and all of the hypocrisy that drives him completely insane, he has to leave it all behind, and that includes everyone that he's been in contact with. I'm reasonably certain that he would rather shoot himself in the head than go back to fucking Manhattan. I kind of picture him somewhere out in the Mojave Desert, sitting around being very, very happy, doing anything but what it is that the people asked him, were kind of demanding of him to be, because he was never wound to be that guy. And it was trying to be wound to be that guy that destroyed his dad's psyche.
I agree.
And so to me, I think that the ending was absolutely perfect. Like, he just basically stops by the funeral to take a look, goes, okay. Also, there's a great moment in there when Mimi dies. And Igby is sitting there pounding on the body and just screaming, and not out of there's a genuine rage there, but not as though it's focused on all the things that drove her nuts. It's the fact that everything that should have been with a regular family relationship never happened, and it never will now. Yeah. And there's always that thought and that hope in your mind when a relationship is turning south that things will work themselves out. And he realizes, this is it. I will never have that moment. I will never get a chance to tell her I love her. I will never have the opportunity to tell her to go fuck herself. Either one.
Yeah.
And
And people might have misconstrued him beating the body and yelling wake up as in he wants her back. No, he wants her to be awake so he can do precisely what you said and tell her to fuck off.
yeah,
Well, but
the
also
one opportunity he would have to vent all of that built up rage that he's had
I've,
of feeling like his life's been controlled.
I feel like he was pounding on her to say to tell her to wake up so he could say fuck off, but he was also pounding on the mother that he didn't have, that he
Yeah.
was hoping that, because he was actually saying I'm sorry and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
so
And I think that's kind of the part there, is that there was always this hope and dream that he could have somebody in his life, because in the end, nobody genuinely cares about him. And I think that, especially when you're a teenager and you're
I think
neglected.
what's his face, Russell, a little bit takes him in and just
Yeah.
gives him a place. He wakes up in the middle of the night to this to this woman, Lucky Charms, fucking Lucky Charms, and he's like, I don't know. That's the whole interaction. I don't know.
That dude was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That guy was awesome. He was like, what did you do to her Lucky Charms? He's like, I don't know.
Well, they're after me, Lucky Charms. But I think in the end, it's the fact that he realized that nobody there would ever actually genuinely care for him, and that if he wanted to be a emotionally whole human being, he had to be long gone from that.
There's three things that I want to mention that ties into that. There's his father, Bill Pullman, says that he feels a great weight coming or pressure coming down on him, and then crushing him. And then IGBY says the same thing later on. And then the song playing as he leaves is called The Weight. And that song is about lifting the weight off your shoulders and giving it to somebody else, which is what he does to his brother.
Okay, so I want to say that I do agree that that was the perfect end for the movie, but with the type of damage that that I believe I have, I would have written it differently to soothe my own insecurities.
There's a lot of movies like that for me. Like 500 Days of Summer is painful, just because. I mean, I recognize it as a pitch perfect movie. I wouldn't change anything, but I also like, man, I don't want it to go this way. And it brings up things in me that are uncomfortable. So, I mean, that happens. It wasn't something that I was, like I said, we could have watched Santa Jaws. I would have been fine with that, but.
I think that Dan, you made a good point when he repeats his father's words about he feels a great pressure coming down on him, crushing him. When he repeats that, that's the moment where he realizes that if he does stay, or does stay with Claire Danes' character, that he would follow in his father's footsteps and end up in an asylum or something, because the weight of all of that stuff is crushing. When I first heard his father's words when he was sitting in the shower, after he had just broken the glass all over his arm and he says that impacted me pretty seriously, because I've been there. I occasionally still am there, and it is frightening as fuck when you're sitting there realizing that your life is literally becoming a weight that you can no longer bear. And it's the moment where some people, not myself, where some people decide that it is not worth fighting for anymore. And but I really, I mean, that scene is so impacting, and then when he repeats it later on is where he redeems himself. He basically realizes he's feeling the same weight that his father tried to convey to him, and that he did, you know, just like both of you are saying he had to do, and that is leave everybody that he was in contact with behind.
And his father was talking about how he gets, you know, like he needs to be around the sun, and that's where Rigby goes at the end. He wants to go to California where it's sunny all year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that was
he
there.
goes and visits his father, you know, and I think that was very meaningful as well.
There's a great moment there where he just leans in, kisses him, and then walks away. But it's the
He gives him the same kiss and the same head rub that he gave little Igby when he was scared of the was it a clown or something? Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, I think that was a great moment in that, look, I'm going to walk away and I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. And I'm going to follow your dream and be the person that you always wanted to be. And I think that to me was like the moment that I'm like, totally crying. Yep, I'm crying. Got a problem with that? What? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
It was a dreadful. It was the emotions that the movie created in me were pretty dreadful. It was incredibly triggering. So, you know, what I want to say is that, you know, was it worth watching? Yes. Would I recommend it? I'll, you know, I guess that would be on an individual basis. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like I can't with a good conscience recommend this movie to everybody. So I have to say it's a press eject, unless you are in the right frame of mind to be able to watch a film this impactual.
Yeah, I hate to sound like existential, man, but it is an awful lot like life. It's oftentimes incredibly funny, but incredibly funny in that sort of, oh my God, the bullet just missed me sort of way. And um, I'm okay. I have two minds about this film. The performances are amazing. The writing is incredible. The directing is on point. The editing is all there. And all of it creates a situation that just makes you laugh. And at the same time, you're just dying inside. It's a film full of mixed emotions and mixed messages. And it's okay. Would I press play for it for me? Yeah, but not often. Would I suggest it to others? Only people who I know who love that sort of, I'm laughing in the face of the collapse of the world. Those are the sort of people that I would absolutely recommend this film to. Most people, I would say, look, it's a bipolar fucking movie. There are moments when you're going to laugh yourself sick, and there are moments when you're going to sit there and feel like your heart's being torn out.
Yeah.
And if you can handle that, knock yourself out. It is an incredible piece of work. It's also, but then again, it's a legitimate piece of art in my mind. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every piece of art is pretty flowers and rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes art reflects the darkest parts of ourselves, and this film does that.
Kieran Culkin.
Jesus Christ, I want to cast him in fucking everything.
Yes.
He's an incredible actor. Yeah, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit.
Film.
Who's that one comedian? Richard. The guy that kind of goes like this all the time. Richard. I don't know. He kind of reminds Richard Lewis. He kind of reminds me of him in a lot of these scenes.
Yeah, I keep thinking of. I was comparing this in my mind with another one of my favorite Kieran Culkin in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Steals every scene he's in.
Yeah, what a perfect.
He's only in it for like 3 minutes, but in a film lock, stock, and full of amazing performances, his is head and shoulders above everybody else's, both in this film and in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Yeah. Seriously, this guy should. I'm waiting for the day that the rest of Hollywood wakes up and just starts throwing money and awards at him because he's that good.
Press play. I didn't know it was going to be such a landmine of a film for everybody.
Sometimes you sit there and you're like, okay, fuck.
Well, I recognize everything you're saying, but it's one of those movies where when I'm looking back on it, I don't think about all those things. I think about the funnier moments I get into trouble with Train Spotting a lot because I tell people it's a funny movie, but then I forget that there's a scene where they come across a dead baby, and
Okay,
that kind of
make
just throws
fun.
everybody off, and they're like, "This was the funny movie you gave me."
You know,
It's a funny
this,
movie about heroin addiction. It's not going to be a
yeah,
funny fucking movie.
Right.
so I think that movie, that Train Spotting and T2, um, would have the same impact on a recovering heroin addict as this movie had to me.
Okay.
Because for 2 nights after watching it, I was haunted by it in my dreams. I mean, I was having PTSD, to the max after I watched the film. So that's why I'm saying this, not to um, make anyone feel bad. It's just that I think if you have severe loss trauma, if you have severe relationship trauma that you've dealt with and are still dealing with, don't watch this film.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. Just don't watch it, because I was hoping, I didn't know what the content really was, but once I was done watching it, I wish I hadn't watched it, because it did trigger it did trigger me completely for two nights after that. And I how I always say, I watch films 3 times to do a review. I cannot watch this film ever again.
Yeah.
Even though looking at it and saying everything that we've said about it, with the fact that Dan chose this movie at a time when the whole entire country is going through, in some sense, the same type of thing, just on a political scale. And but for me, I mean, it's well known that I've had some pretty big relationship and loss traumas over the past several years. And it was like a hand grenade.
Well, I'm
And
sorry.
no, and I'm not
These
saying
things
that
happen.
to incite some kind of
Oh, I know.
apology or anything. It was a great film. I mean,
Mhm.
in any other case, I would have given it a press play, but I think it's way too explosive and too dangerous for certain people to watch. I have a pretty good support system, in my life. These two blokes, and family and new friends that I've recently made, who are an incredible support system for me. For someone who doesn't have that, this would be a hand grenade in
Yeah.
your life. So don't chance it.
Uh, press play for me. I think it's cathartic, actually. I can see where you guys are coming from, but I actually had similar circumstances around the time I first saw it, and actually had kind of the opposite reaction. It made me feel less alone in that, because he was going through kind of the same thing. But I can see where you're coming from. So it's not for everybody, but I think it's good, and it's funny as hell for at least a good 60% of the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the movie is, I mean, it is a funny movie, yes.